Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Utah and Utah State resumes their rivalry after a long layoff. These two teams back at it. Game coming up in Logan. You'll hear it right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Kyle Whittingham, head coach of the University of Utah, kind enough to join us as Utah prepares for Utah State. And, Coach, look, I know this rivalry doesn't have the same cachet as maybe Utah and BYU, but it's got to be nice. As a guy who played at BYU, coached at the University of Utah, you've faced Utah State a bunch of times. It's got to be nice to resume this rivalry coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's good for the state of Utah. It generates a lot of interest, and gosh, it's been a while since we have played, and particularly up there. I think it's been 12 years, and so it was a late addition to the schedule. We were scrambling last year to try to fill out that 12th game, and they were good enough to put us on the schedule, and so that another positive for us to go up there and play the Aggies in the in-state rivalry game.
Well, you're coming out of this Baylor game now, Coach, and you're probably feeling pretty good about the team, but you had a couple bumps and bruises. Can you give us any update on Cam Rising?
No, we don't. Unless it's season ending, we don't give any injury report, so that's our policy, and we'll just stick to that.
So when you look at Utah State, what jumps out at you on film when you see that team and what they bring to the table after their first 2 weeks of the season?
Well, they've had two very different ball games, obviously, and it was a tough sledding at USC last week. USC's obviously a very talented team and much improved on defense, I can say. We studied that film quite extensively, but so we don't. I don't believe anybody really gets a true feel of who they are until you're in week 4, 5, 6, right in there. That's when you really settle in and decide who your playmakers are and who you're going to be offensively, defensively, and that type of thing. And so I think both us and them are still feeling themselves out and deciding what direction they're going to be heading.
Saw you talking at camp or at practice yesterday about the quarterback situation. Isaac Wilson, number 2. Let's say he starts in this game. You did mention that Brandon Rose would be number 3. Kind of walk us through how difficult this quarterback hierarchy has been for you to put together, Coach.
Yeah, it has, and spring ball. Sam Heward, speaking of him in particular, wasn't available at spring ball. He didn't transfer until late, so that put him a little bit behind. We still think he's a really good addition to our team, but Isaac being there in spring, and of course Brandon being in the program for 3 years now, gives them a leg up. But it's been a close competition, and then Luke Patari also was in the mix, who the young man who played in the Colorado game for us last year. So we feel like we've got a good quarterback room, and it has been a little bit difficult to sort out, after Cam. But Isaac, we still have a great deal of belief in him, and we think he's getting better daily. And it's just a matter of him continuing to absorb Coach Ludd's offense. It's a pretty involved offense, and you got to really study it and be in your playbook constantly to really get it down.
From the outside looking in, we can make judgments on Isaac Wilson and his performance. You guys take a closer look. What receiver may not have ran the right route, or an offensive lineman may not have picked up the block that may have disrupted the play and caused the quarterback to do something that he wouldn't have done otherwise. Overall, how did you evaluate him, and how did he look in that game against Baylor when he had that extended time?
Well, I think he took a step forward based on, or in comparison to the week prior. He seemed to have more command and confidence in himself in that game. Still, a few route structures, as you said. He didn't see the field quite well enough, and had some options to get the ball up the field a little bit more. But he's improved. Like I said, since he's got here, continuing to improve. We believe he has a big upside. He's got a big arm. That's probably his number one attribute, is he can make every throw. He's also got a great deal of athleticism, and the Q run game is something that he excels at as well. And so we'll see where we go with it. But we believe in him. Bottom line, we really believe in Isaac and think he's got a bright future.
So, Coach, let's talk about your running backs a little bit, and just your belief in that running back room. We've seen a mix and match, and we've seen a new name. We've seen some old names, but give us your thoughts on kind of the hierarchy of your running back room, because we've seen a jumble there.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, coming out of this past game, Mekhi Bernard made a strong statement made a case for RB1, and he's been a guy that's played a lot of good football for us through the years. I believe he was right at the top end of his workload last week, 19 carries, 46 snaps overall, which is about as much as he can handle. But if we can get 19 carries for 130 whatever yards he gained, that's pretty good production. And so he really had the upper hand in last week's game, but we still believe Mike Mitchell's going to be a really good back for us and serve a role. Jalen Glover did not play last week, but you may see him in the game this week. And then Dijon Stanley's got his package of plays that he had really great success with in week 1. Didn't show up as much in week 2. And then Charlie Vincent came in and gave us a couple nice runs in the game this past week. So we still have got a stable of backs that we think is pretty talented. And if there has been some separation right now, it's Mekhi Bernard slightly separating himself from the pack as the lead guy.
Kyle Whittingham joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coach, this defense looks just absolutely loaded. You took a little bit of a hit on your depth at cornerback, but overall, just how good can this defense be this year?
Well, they've been really good for 8 quarters, I can tell you that. They've, even though we had a little bit of a lull in the third quarter this past week, gave up a few things, but they have controlled both football games that we've played so far. Stingy against the run, limiting big plays up the field, tackling us very efficiently, and that's something that typically takes a few games to settle into with your tackling, but they've been tackling lights out since game 1. One thing we got to do a better job of is we got to get more takeaways. That's something that's been a calling card for us for a lot of years, and given our offense short field situations, we've only been able to generate 2 takeaways in these first 2 games, and so that's something that's got to become more productive in that area.
I was going through my stats yesterday, just taking a look at the conference, Coach, and where everybody stands, and I'm looking down my sacks list. Connor O'Toole checks in at number 1 in the Big 12. Right behind him at number 2, Van Fillinger with 2.5 sacks, and it's like just wash, rinse, and repeat with your defensive ends and pass rushes. Where does this come from? Is it your identification of talent out of high school recruiting? Is it more on the developmental end once you get there? Like, how is it that you're having, top sack leaders every year?
Well, I think it's both of those factors involved. I know our assistant coaches do a great job in recruiting overall as far as evaluation, seeing the upside. And it's when you recruit, it's not from high school. The portal's a little different when you take portal guys. But in high school, it's not where is this kid now? Where can he be in 2 or 3 years? And it's projection. And our assistant coaches do a great job of projecting talent, and getting those guys with the big frames and that can run and that have athleticism. And all we got to do is fine tune a little bit of their fundamentals and technique and slap some weight on them. And that's been our MO for a lot of years. And right now I got to believe we have one of the best defensive end rooms in the country. We've got 5 or 6 guys that are absolutely game ready and guys that would probably be starting pretty much anywhere in the country.
How strange is it going to be to see Bryson Barnes on the other sideline wearing a different uniform, and he's doing for Utah State what he did for you a lot, and that's come in and help out and try to keep the ship righted when a starting quarterback goes down.
Exactly, and we're not sure which one we're going to see. We're not sure if the Petros kid is going to be ready or not. But in any event, Bryson has done just what you said, what he did for us, and has filled in for them. He won a bunch of games for us the last couple of years, and really did some good things. He's a really good athlete. He's a high character individual. He's competitive. And very, very proud of him, and glad to see that he's having an opportunity to play.
Hey, really quick, Coach, I hesitate to ask because we're limited on time, but Cole Becker, 1 of 3 in field goals, a couple missed field goals, and then a bumbled snap, I believe it was, on an extra point. Just talk about the kicking game. Do you have trust and faith in it? Because that Oklahoma State game is going to be crazy coming up in a couple weeks. You might need that kicker.
Well, we do have faith in Cole. He was the 3rd best kicker in the Pac-12 last year from a field goal percentage standpoint. He's got a strong leg. He's a proven commodity. Saturday wasn't his best game. He understands that. Nobody's harder on Cole Becker than Cole Becker. I mean, he's extremely hard on himself, and so he's had a great week of practice so far. We're only about halfway through the week, but he's a guy that we still have a lot of belief in. The 2 field goals, even though they weren't gimmies, they're 45 yards, somewhere there in that range. They're ones that he makes probably 80-90% of the time, and then the field goal or the PAT was just a botched hold. We didn't even give him the opportunity to kick the ball, but you're right. Every point's going to count as the season wears on, and that was 7 points right there that we left on the table, and we've got to obviously get that corrected.
Coach, appreciate your time as always. Good luck coming up on Saturday.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Always good to be with you guys. Thank you.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.